Hey guys, so today, what I'm going to discuss with you guys today. Alright, I had this question that kind of came up and I never really addressed it. But when you're picking out your heroes for Gen 4, for those of you that have been saving and preparing, say you've been taking my advice and you're still in Gen 2 or Gen 3 and you come along to Gen 4, what heroes should you invest in? Which ones should you not invest in? Here's my 2 cents on this. Alright, the lucky hero, like, these heroes in particular are probably the easiest to grab when you dump all your gems into them. So for that reason, getting Lyn, for example, up to 4 stars, I didn't, I dumped all of my gems into this. It probably cost me, like, somewhere around 2 or 300,000 gems, but this is over the course of, like, several lucky wheels. There's, like, maybe 2 or 3 lucky wheels that it came through. Okay, but the 2 to 300,000 gems that was dumped into this, at no point did I have to use any of my mythic shards to do this. And so for that reason, I kind of look at, say, getting Lyn as kind of like one of those things that, okay, is it a priority, right? Is, say, for example, her skill worth maxing out? These are questions that ultimately comes down to, do you want the Defender Troop Lethality? If you're wanting Defender Troop Lethality, you're going to want, the problem, one of the problems with any Defender Troop hero in general, right, is that they're defensive in general, right? So the only time you'll ever see anybody use Lyn really will be in garrisons. So then that leaves you with some heroes like Reyna, who, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, okay, a lot harder to obtain. And I would argue even Amos is kind of hard to obtain for similar reasons, right? But comparing Reyna to Amos and Lyn, Reyna is like the hardest one to get because you got to go through the Hall of Heroes to get her. And that makes it really, really painful. So if I was going to choose, like, which one am I going to get, I would get the most painful one possible if I had the shards. Okay? Key part there, though, is if I had the shards. If I don't have the shards, right, then you're just going to have to completely bypass even bothering with it, because at the end of the day, you're going to wind up basically wanting to dump your gems and everything into getting VIP level increases. Like, that's where really all of your effort ought to be spent, because this is what's going to give you the most amount of fruit for your efforts, and so for that reason, I kind of stress not getting too heavy into it. Now, like Arena, as you can tell, I'm surrounded by people that are literally like double, triple, quadruple in size. So, like, if you look at Rena's skill, though, it's Rally Troop Lethality, which, as you may recall, there's Rally Troop Attack that you get out of Geronimo. So Rena's going to be really nice for anybody that picks this particular hero up, in part because of that nice, wonderful 15% lethality bonus. But just like anything, of course, like, gear goes hand in hand with it. And you can kind of see what a maxed out account looks like. It's actually nutty, because you look at what they have and it's absolutely crazy to try and compare yourself against somebody like that. And even some people that are way up there, right? Like, even they've got a fair bit into their gear. Like, it takes a substantial amount to get anywhere that high level. And I would say, if anything, your efforts probably should not be spent on the gear of heroes, right? You really shouldn't worry so much about that. In some ways, I feel like you can focus, like, on the exclusive gear, and you're kind of doing yourself a disservice, because the gear that you equip them with is an arguably probably more valuable and more important. Like, what you do here and what you spend onto this is ultimately going to pay out dividends in the long term. And so for that reason, it's like, you really got to kind of pay attention to that more than anything, right? Now, you might be noticing that I've been saving, and that's intentional. Like, I'm trying to save as much as I can so that eventually I can work on upgrading those pieces. But again, just like anything, it takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of effort. So my 2 cents of advice is if you are somebody that is kind of struggling to know whether or not, going into Gen 4, whether or not you should save your shards and whether or not you should do something, I really think you need to have at least 600 or 700 shards, okay, And I would wait until like Gen 5 to then start playing with those shards, because I think that's about when everyone gives up. Because by Gen 4, you get completely blown away. But that's just my 2 cents, and this is, my experience with it so far, is that by Gen 4, there are very clear marks in the line of sand that differentiate the pay to win from the free to play. And in the beginning it was like, oh, okay, there's a little difference. Now it's like, okay, yeah, no, this guy is going to mollywop the living bejeebus out of almost anybody or everybody that comes into contact with him. And it's not even a contest anymore. It's like, it's just a guaranteed factor that's going to occur. That's just a given. So we have like the Night King. We have, we've got players that are like 50 mil, and even these ones that are 30 mil, okay, or 10, 20 mil, man. Like, some of these players, you're going to be having a really rough day if you think you're going to try and compete with them. Now, you might see that, hey, what do you know? This guy's at the top. How is that? And it all has to come down to like how you line up your heroes and how you compete. It's kind of interesting that the guy's gotten that far, just by juggling between what I would assume to be all the ranks and around it. But I just thought I'd go ahead and point that out. But needless to say, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.